So the way I wrote it down, Michael, earlier was that you famously dropped a match onto a trail of gas back in September 2022. I think so. I was thinking about it last night, as I said. I'm thinking that there are people out there that are like, finally, Michael is here. He'll tell us the truth about the Trev Alberts regime. He'll break it down, give us all of the inside info. I don't really have anything on that. I'm guessing that you don't really have anything on
I have
that.
lots.
Okay, great.
I've told you by text that now I have to balance a line on the job that I do as executive director of the Jet Award Foundation, working with a lot of fundraising, working with a lot of money people, right? When it happened, and actually I was meeting with Marty Cordero. We were having breakfast, actually, talking about a bunch of stuff. Walk out, get in the car. Immediately, I have a text from somebody. I go on to Twitter, of course, and there's all the information about Trev Alberts. And the person who texted me go, "Are you surprised?" And I said, "Really, I'm not. Am I surprised by where he went and the job he took? A little.
Are you surprised at the timing?
No, not at all.
Not that it happened this soon into his time in
No,
Nebraska.
not at all. That didn't surprise me at all. What surprised me was where he went.
That he went to A&M.
Right. That he went to an AD job.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought he was going to be a riser and be a commissioner at a conference, or maybe he'd be something with this whole new way they do the going from BCS to 4-team to 12-team. I thought he'd be involved into that. That's what I thought he would do. I did know there was major issues funding-wise for the stadium project and other things too. Matter of fact, when we were doing Big Red Wrap-Up, and Aaron Sorensen was actually the guest that week they made the announcement, and I said to her, don't you think this is a little too much? And she said, no, I mean, why not? And she wasn't wrong, because there was never a point where a dollar amount went out and Nebraska didn't fill it, right? So they've never had that history, whether it be North Stadium, East Stadium project, the Tom and Nancy Osborne complex, always filled, right? I said it to her because I had talked to some people.
That day?
That week.
Okay, in the lead up.
About what was happening in terms of the fundraising community and what they felt about what Nebraska was doing and what they were asking for. And at that point, there was a lot of people out there going, they just got to stop. We've given this much. You can't continue to ask the same people for this much money. So then you move ahead a little bit. Trev gets the raise in November, which was universally hated and talked about in that community. People were upset.
Because that's a couple weeks after the Flatwater Free Press story.
And because it was only a short time into his career.
And Ted Carter's leaving.
And Ted Carter was giving him a parachute deal. They were very upset about that. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then you start hearing from them going, you know what? If they don't hire this president, we're not giving. Now, I had a lot of experience with that building down the street, UNMC. We've put so much money into that building with our kids. So much money. Miles had 40 surgeries, half of them at that place. Just was over there on Friday of last week, spending another thousands of dollars. Anyway, Jeff Gold is one of the most qualified men on the planet to be president of a university. Overqualified. Spend 5 minutes reading that guy's resume and you'll go, oh my God, I didn't do anything with my life. Because that's who he is. Gold, Dr. Jeffrey Gold is an amazing man. Also, very good friends with Trev Alberts. And when I heard, this is a while ago, that Trev had leanings towards Jeff Gold, who I know they're really good friends, and that he wasn't being made the president, I'm like, oh, this is going to be horrible. Then I talked to somebody who's let's call him very, very wealthy, very wealthy, who said, this is all going wrong. It just is. Whether it's the president, the raise, the $460/600 million, all of that. It's going wrong right now. So when I walked out of that breakfast with Marty and I saw that he was leaving, I wasn't shocked. I'm not surprised because, and I don't think that the civil lawsuit has a lot to do with a lot of things, but I think that's another thing on top of it. It's kind of like the whole Jenga thing. Eventually you get to so high where it falls over. That's just a small thing. But the fundraising part of it, the upsetness they are about some of the people he brought in for certain positions, especially when it involved money. And then there were a lot of people just didn't trust him.
Is that stemming from like UNO or just in general him as a person?
It goes back to what happened with football and wrestling, but it's beyond that. They don't trust, because Trev is a guy who, if somebody told you, and I listen, like Trev Alberts, always been good to me. Anytime I've ever asked him for something, he did it. We needed him to speak, he spoke. Come to an event. But he's that guy where if somebody told you he had done something really evil, right? You guys familiar with the TV show?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Aliens.
If his face came off, you wouldn't be shocked. Not because he's not a bad. It's not he's a bad guy. He seems so affable. It's over
like
the top.
Too affable.
Yes.
He's like too kind of clean cut.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes you think that, something bad must be wrong about him. So there are people that don't like him because of that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Too hot coffee.
They don't trust the guy.
They don't trust him. And then there are people at the university who are not huge fans of his. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all that together, I am not shocked that he was looking at a bigger and better deal. I'm not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And people get so upset because he went to school here and because his name's on the statement and everything else. Look, man, we're the same age. He and I are both 54 years old. At 54, you got to think about your family, yourself, period. You can't worry about all that stuff. I know that to people who grew up here or went to school there, it's a passion. It's their family. It's what they love. It's a business.
Yeah.
He walked away from a business job to take another business job at a place that he feels much more secure when it comes to what they do in terms of their, and they don't call it board of regents there. It's the board, not directors. They don't call it regents there. To that group, he's more comfortable with the president they have over there. I understand all that. He was looking for a place that he could be comfortable in and succeed in what he wanted to get done. And he kept telling people. He kept talking about it. Every time he would talk about building a Wrigleyville type of thing, what we need to do for revenue sources. He kept talking about all that stuff because he knew the money, I'm not saying it was drying up, but it was getting much slower to get that big hose of people who've done it to a really small group of people who continue to want to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I wasn't shocked when he decided to leave, because I don't think he knew what was happening with the stadium project. He knew they weren't going to get anything done, president, especially in terms of who the guy he wanted. And it's better to have a guy hire you for a job than for you to work for somebody else who got hired.
Sure.
Right? You want to work at a place where when the guy who hired you stays with you, because as soon as a new guy comes in, all of a sudden, maybe he doesn't like you anymore. Or maybe he doesn't want to do what you want to do.
Interesting discussion then to have about Matt Rule, obviously, given that none of the people are around.
Exactly.
So do you think then that
although the front door of the university is the football coach.
Yes, 100%.
He's standing at the front door. You know,
yeah,
he is the guy.
We saw that.
Yeah,
right?
He's the front door of the university, and it's the way it should be here.
Like, did he overplay his hand with the stadium, or did he just misread the situation? And can both of those things be separate questions?
Well, two things, and Sip can talk about this a little bit later, because there's a process you have to go through, right? In order to start the process, we had to learn about it. It couldn't be secret. You can't have a state university with an elected board of regents and hide it. And we're going to start this project, start fundraising, start getting diagrams made, start paying for all this, and we're not going to tell anybody. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to publicly get in front of the regents and go, here's our plan. Can you please tell us yes or no? Mm-hmm. Because of the way that's set up, he had to go earlier than he wanted to.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think he understood where people were.
I definitely did not.
In terms of tired of giving or tired of continuing to give the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at the thing you just mentioned, all of the kind of construction projects that have happened with the football program, and specifically over the last, now going back to 1999, and there's always like this buffer, right? It's like 1999 they did West Stadium. 06 was when North Stadium opened up. Mm-hmm. East Stadium, I think that was finished in like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And then they do the new locker room, and I mean, it's funny, it's still not even done, but that's unfolding, and then he is announcing the new thing to do. Whereas all those other years, there was a nice buffer in between all of them. This
and
one
they
was
were
not.
Also kind of winning.
And they were kind of winning.
99, they were the best team in the country at the end of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And even in 2006, they're coming off of.
There was a lot of excitement.
There was a lot of excitement coming from 2006. The winning's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
People are just tired.
I don't know how many times that I heard, and this is where I feel like I got it wrong, is that I didn't realize how much the lack of winning was really frustrating people when it was announced in September, October, where it's like, but they're not winning. Why should I do it? It's like,
right.
Wow, but shouldn't you want it to be better just because?
Yeah.
But I'm also, as I've said a lot over the last week, I'm not someone who's going to give money to any of these things. And so, let alone, I'm not a rich person that's going to get, so it's like, I don't have to worry about it.
I think what they thought, and I'm almost positive this is what they thought, because it's kind of what Trev said to us when we had him on Big Red Wrap Up. This one was for the fans. Mm-hmm. I always think in my head, this one's for John, right? This one was for the fans. This isn't for the players in the locker room. This isn't for recruiting. This is for the fans. This
100%.
is for you to make things better for you. I've heard a lot of people say, what did Trev even get done here? What did he even get done here? And he was the first. He was the first person to really try to find out what the fans wanted.
He did that very early.
He wanted to find out what the fans wanted, what they needed.
Survey.
And he got the survey done, and they did 2 different surveys, and they talked to everybody, and they figured out what was wrong. And then he said, okay, now that we know, we need to do this. We need to fix it.
Yeah.
And I think he knew, based off of his aspirations, that he didn't have a long timeline.
Yeah.
And so that's why, another reason why he was like, okay, we need to do this now. We need to get this done. This is part of my legacy of being here. He got a lot of stuff done. Matt Rule said no at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had to go back to him. He had to convince Matt Rule to give him more money, give him more years, whatever else. He got that done.
Yep.
You know, what the mistake that Moose had where he brought all of the media stuff in-house was when it happened, we were like, you're leaving so much money on the table. What are you doing? He turned that around, and now they're getting money for that. He did a lot of things that were very efficient and good financially. He also was a visionary in what needed to be done. He saw everything coming. Because he's on everybody's committee. He's on like 100 committees. So, of course, he knows everything that's getting ready to happen. It was great having him in that position. I wish he wouldn't have left. I wish Ted Carter wouldn't have left. Ronnie Green made me laugh. I wish he would have stayed. But now you're in a situation where you have to go get a guy who is not of Nebraska, of conservative or liberal politics, of whatever. You need to go get a guy who's a deep thinker. You need to go get somebody who's smart, who can turn a university hospital into a huge moneymaker, who can raise money for 800 buildings. Have you noticed how many buildings they built over there? You know who helped raise all that money? Jeff Gold did. Mm-hmm. So all of that's the kind of guy you need. I don't know who they're going to go get. Maybe it'll be somebody that Matt Rule knows well, that he trusts. Maybe that's possible for AD. What they get for president better be somebody who can come in here and that's smart and has ideas and knows what's going to happen in 10 years. Not what's going to happen this year, what's going to happen in 10 years. And that's who Trev was.
Yeah. And the thing that I think you lose that is really frustrating, I don't know, just watching from afar right now, is that he kind of had permission, I thought at least, to do a lot of things, given that he straddled those worlds, and like him being a former Husker and what that kind of allows someone to do. And yet, even in the end, with the stadium stuff, as you said, he did that for the fans. And yet I talked to a lot of fans, and I was continued to be surprised by this, who were like, but I don't want this. I don't want it to be done this way for whatever reason, whether it was because of how much money it was, because it's following another project, because the team doesn't suck. I know a lot of people were like, I don't want to, have people lose their season tickets for a couple of years.
People who've had them for 60 years.
Yeah, they really did not like that.
The blue bloods of the program were going to lose their seats. And so, I wasn't surprised, especially that week when I first heard from people and Trev came on and we had Aaron on and we did all that talking. But when he left, again, I'm just surprised it was to A&M and it was for an AD spot.
Yeah,
I just thought it was going to. I thought he was going to take a step up to something else that he was in charge of, that he felt passionate about. But you know what? A&M's going to get him there. I think he stays at A&M for 2 or 3 years, does everything he expects to do at A&M, and that gets him the next big job.
Do you think he goes to pro football? Do you think that's what?
No. I think it's something in college. I think it's a commissioner of a conference, or if you do like some sort of. Could you imagine if they did the whole? They had a czar for college football. He'd be perfect for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's looking for that kind of gig, and I think he applied for some gigs like that.
Yeah.
So I think he was looking for that.